All right, so today we're going to kick off with our annual 2 to 3 hour sales mastermind, the closer method, right? So, this is a super tactical training. I want to super dive into the sales process, how to train acquisition managers, how to run a sales team, and one script, one process, every seller call. That's what I want to promise you guys today. So, let's get into it, all right? So, the real problem is you don't need more leads, you need better conversations. So, the reason why I did this training is because so many of us are told online that we need to pay for more leads, that we need to pay for consistency. And at the end of the day, it's not really spending more money on leads, it's getting those sellers on the phone that you already have and turning them into actual profit, right? I say this because if you had a really good sales process, right, and you door knocked every foreclosure in your neighborhood and you door knocked every single one, there is motivation, there is distress, right? So if you didn't have a good sales process, how can you comfortably convince somebody that your option is the best option, right? If you have a good sales process, you can convince those people that you're the best option and that's where the money's coming from. And that's what I want to kind of teach you guys today. You've already done all the freaking hard things, right? Getting sellers on the phone is the toughest part of wholesaling. You're doing a ton of time, investing a ton of money into lead generation activities. And most people in the world don't have what it takes, but you guys do, right? You guys are cold calling hundreds of numbers daily. You're texting tons of people, following up with them on text messages. Some of you are even door knocking. And then some of you are even spending a ton of money on marketing, right? Data, direct mail, PPC, PPL, whatever the case may be, you guys are doing the hard part. The goal of this training is turning more conversations into signed contracts. Okay. By the end of the session, you'll have a proven framework that transforms how you handle every seller call. This is not theory, and you guys will know if you guys have been to my training before. This is not theory. It's a battle tested system that consistently converts motivated sellers into deals. You'll walk away with the exact script, that psychology that the top wholesalers use to close more contracts with the same exact lead flow that they're currently doing. Okay. This is kind of the basics here. The simple wholesaler pipeline, right? We're going to generate leads, right? Obviously, through marketing, however you want to do it, paid, free, inbound, outbound, right? You get them on the phone and then they're interested in selling. Next, you move into the discovery process. This is the most important part of the process, and this is what this training covers. This training knocks out the discovery portion of the process, right? We call it the closer process, and it's the first third of the process: the clarification, the C, the labeling of the L, and the O of observation, right? The overview. Those three things will build out the discovery process, and then we'll move into the offer, getting the contract signed, and ultimately closing the deal. But without having the process knocked out for discovery, you won't be able to actually move forward in the pipeline successfully, right? And that's what most of you guys are probably experiencing. This is what happens when you get off the phone after 40 minutes and then they ghost you, or they're decided to do something else with, they decide to do business with somebody else, or you go into the offer call, you give the offer and they say yes, or they ghost you, or they just say hell no, we're not accepting that super low cash offer. And the reason why is you guys aren't prospecting deep enough in the discovery process to discover what the actual problem is. Okay. And how do you do this? You do this with a script, and then I'll kind of go over where most deals die, right? So the whole premise of this is without a sales script. I know a lot of people out there probably disagree with me in terms of scripts, but however, scripts is what creates a process or the foundation of a process, right? So think about your favorite movie. Think about your favorite actors and actresses. When you watch a movie, you're like, damn, that was a really good movie. And like that actor was fantastic, right? Brad Pitt, love Matthew McConaughey. Like that's my boy right there. But if you give some other actor the same script, they may or may not deliver the same performance, right? And that's what wholesaling or sales in general is. Like every single major sales company has a script or a framework to follow. And what makes it into a good script is your acting or your delivery, right? So the delivery, what I mean by that is tonality. How do you say the words that are on the paper? What is the timing of you doing that, right? Your pacing. Are you matching the seller's tone? Are you accelerating? Are you talking too fast? There's so many different things that you can do to adjust the style of the script to make it work. Okay. And we'll dive into all these different things here. And obviously, these are the three ways where most deals die. Okay. So there's no structure to your call. You're winging it. There's awkward pauses. Because there's no framework, you're missing a ton of information that's very crucial to you convincing someone that, this is the best option for them, right? You lose control of the conversation. How many times do you have conversations with people? They go on for 30, 40 minutes and you get nothing out of it, right? You come off the phone, you're like, damn, that was a really good 40-minute conversation with that seller. This could be a deal. And they never contacted you again. You never gain control of that conversation. They just went willy nilly and you let it happen, right? Without a framework, without a script, without the foundation, you're just hoping instead of actually closing. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Number two, I know a lot of you guys, I've talked to a lot of you guys in the past who are attending this training, right? So you pitch too early. So you don't get enough stuff or details or problems from the discovery process, and you go into the offer and you pitch them a lowball cash offer, or you try to pitch a creative deal where it just doesn't work for them, right? They get defensive, they get upset, they give you a ton of objections, then you have a mountain to climb to convince them that you're still the best option for them, and then ultimately they decide not to do business with you and you're stuck holding the bag. Okay. And then last but not least, extremely weak follow up. So 80% of deals actually die in the follow up because the average wholesaler does about 1 to 2 follow ups per contact, right? Well, you've seen my trainings where we contact the seller 7 to 10 times and then they actually end up answering us and we get them on the phone, right? We send about 10 text messages in the first 5 days, right? Most wholesalers are reaching out 1 to 2 times. So this is the key, and this is like where most of your deals are probably dying, is either through bad follow up and also just lack of structure, and you're pitching way too early without the right information. Anyone who's coaching you or telling you online that it's all about one call closes, those times have drastically changed. This is not 2022 where you can just text blast someone, get them on the phone, and convince them that you're the bee's knees, right? There's 60 other wholesalers that are probably contacting that seller. So you need to be consistent. You need to follow up with them. Does that make sense? All right. Introducing the closer framework. Okay. So I call it the mother script because it should be the mother load script of all scripts. This script will cover every single lead type, pre foreclosure, divorce, PPL, all that stuff. It will cover everything for you in here. Okay. So I'm going to show you kind of how we're going to do this today. I'm not going to kill you with slides today. So that's super, super boring. But I'm going to show you the script that we kind of made. Okay. And we'll go through it together so you guys can understand what we're dealing with. So when you're dealing with a seller, there's always only two different ways that you're going to get contacted, right? One way is going to be outbound. So that's you cold calling. That's you like invading someone's normal routine. So that's disrupting your day. That's one way to contact a seller. Number two is a warm open. So warm open, very simple. Somebody fills out your PPC web form. Somebody books an appointment with your SMS AI. Somebody replies to your email. It's a direct to agent referral. Anything that the seller knows that you're calling them about. Okay, that's a warm intro. But most of us will be cold calling, or most of our teammates or people on our squads will be cold calling, right? So, super, super easy. You want to disrupt the pattern, which is usually something like, hey, is this Tim? Right? That's a horrible way to do it. So, I want to highlight that first line for you. This is the worst way to do it when you're wholesaling, right? Because everyone is doing the same thing. So when you go, hey, it's Tim, you sound like every other cold caller, right? You sound like the person that owns those call centers out in like Pakistan, India, Philippines, whatever the case may be. You're sounding the same, so that triggers something in a seller where they're like, "Oh my god, like I'm getting another spam call. Like don't call me, f you." And there's a 7-second window when you cold call someone that you have to break the way that they think that you're a traditional wholesaler and get them past that 7 seconds, right? So anyone who listens to Jeremy Miner, NEPQ, I'm an Alex Hormozy guy, so I went through Alex Hormozy's sales process, and that's kind of how I've been developed, right? I started with NEPQ, and then I'm more of like straight shooter now, right? So a lot of us work 9 to 5 jobs. We don't really have time to be linguistic ninjas, right? I want to get straight to the point and get the right answer out of them. So this is kind of like a textbook page out of Jeremy Miner. Hey, Jim, this is Tim. Maybe I shouldn't have used those names. I'll use a different name. So I'll use Rich, right? I see Rich in the chat right here. So, hey, Rich, this is Tim. You probably weren't expecting my call. I work with a small group of buyers in Houston looking at properties around 123 Main Street. Did I catch you at a bad time? Okay. The reason why it's, hey, Rich, it's very targeted. I'm not asking if it's you or not. I'm pretending like I already know you. Right. So if someone confidently goes, hey, Rich, it's Tim, doesn't that sound like you probably know me? It would spark a little bit of curiosity if the way someone said that to me. And I would probably be like, okay, like this is a little different. Right. You're very upfront with the expectations, right? I work with a small group of buyers here in Houston looking at properties around this area. Did I catch you at a bad time? Like we're telling you exactly what we're calling you about without saying like, hey, you're probably not the owner of 123 Main Street, right? Like it's pretty like so annoying, right? And then also when you say, did I catch you at a bad time? You're giving them some power in the conversation, right? Like, yes, you caught me at a bad time. Okay, cool. No worries, man. This will take like 5 seconds, right? So after you do that quick intro, if they don't hang up, got it. I'll be quick. I saw insert distress trigger. So this is where this script allows you to insert a distress problem, right? So a lot of people will tell you, hey, call county records, call niche records, whatever the case may be. You want to call distress sellers. So this is where you kind of turn the script into a personalized situation that's targeted to their frame. So got it. I'll be quick. Hey, I saw that you had a foreclosure auction on the 9th of February, right? At 123 Main Street. Have you thought about selling it or getting rid of it in the next few months? Like the old way of doing it is like, hey, do you need any help with it? And it's like, no, that they don't need any help, right? Or no, I got it taken care of. Or no, I don't want to sell it, right? So you're kind of going through this like vicious cycle of like going through these leads and just cycling through. But there's a reason why we say it this way in terms of, hey, you name the trigger and that shows that there's context, right? And then also saying, hey, have you thought about selling it or getting rid of it in the next few months? Like make sure that you deliver in the next few months with a little bit of tonality, right? So got it. I'll be quick. I saw that there's a foreclosure auction on 9 February on 123 Main Street. Have you thought about selling it or getting rid of it in the next few months? Right? You wanna deliver that in a little more curiosity or questioning tone because that also lowers the psychological defense of that person. Like, you're not forcing them into making a decision today. How many scripts or processes have you guys been through that kind of puts a lot of pressure on the seller? Like, "Hey, if we made a fair decision today or you like our price, you're definitely ready to sell, right?" And it's like, no, that's not a good way to do it because you're actually like, how many times have you guys heard that script and actually used it? And the person gets upset at you and saying, dude, like, why are you even asking me that? Like, I don't even know who you are. And I don't even know like what you do. I know I'm not the only one that's done that or had that response to me. Right. So we want to try to alleviate as much pressure as possible to kind of get through that. Okay. So that's really all you have to do in the cold intro. If they say yes or maybe, you go straight into the discovery process. There is no like confusing thing to like be like, oh, like, is he interested? Does she want to sell? It's, hey, can we get into this now? Like, yes, you're interested. Okay, let's go into the discovery process. Okay. So now let's quickly go over a warm intro. Very simple, right? Hey, this is me, Top Gap Homes. You reached out about the property you want to do Main Street. Is now a bad time to chat for 5 to 10 minutes about what you're looking to do with it, right? They already wanted to talk to you. So they either booked an appointment with you, they filled an ad, whatever the case may be. You can go straight into it. They say, yes, we can chat for 10 minutes. Great. Go into the discovery process. You don't need to do all that crazy fancy stuff on top. Okay. The consultative approach happens in the discovery process, right? So it's a really good question, Simon. So the thing is that in the very beginning of the call, you need to just get to the point because there's like 6 other people that are probably calling them about their foreclosure. I literally just looked at my CRM just now. They're texting me right now saying like, "Oh, you're like my 7th person that texted us," right? And you're competing with all these people. You got to kind of sift through the mud. Once you get to the discovery process, that is where the consultative approach kind of takes off, right? Because you're going to ask some questions like, "What have you done so far? What do you think is going to happen if you don't make that decision today?" Right? You're going to start going through that process with them and figure out, but they're going to tell you the answer versus you trying to like get it out of them like very upfront. Okay. So I talk about the closer framework, right? Obviously, C.L.O.S.E.R, right? That's the acronym. So we're going to start off at a very simple thing. So C means clarify. Okay. The goal of why we're here, right? This is the whole goal. Like, this is the why of the whole problem, right? And you want to stay here until you get the entire picture of like what's actually holding them back. Okay. Your whole purpose in sales, especially with distressed homeowners, is to articulate their problem better than they. And you can see it right down below under label, right? You want to say their problem better than they can. Okay. So when you go into the discovery process, like I said, we go straight to the point, right? Perfect. So I don't waste your time. Can you walk me through what's going on with the property and why you're considering selling? Because remember, you just asked them if they wanted to sell in the future, right? You're kind of creating a path for them to follow. Okay. And the psychology behind this, it's very open ended. And I know some of my guys actually use this script right now. I see some of you in here right now that when you guys adjusted to this script, the seller actually opens up way more than going through the fancy long intro script, right? Setting the agenda and all that stuff. They just straight up tell you because it's open ended, which lowers their frame, right? Lowers their defensiveness. Okay. During the call, this simple question, guys, after they tell you their long story of problems, if we wave the magic wand and this was handled in the next 30 to 60 days, what would you want to see happen? Why am I saying this? Any sale you do, if you buy a new car, if you buy a program, a CRM, a house, whatever the case may be, you need to figure out what the A is. So this is the A. This is where they're at. The more pain, the better, right? If you go into this part, if we wave the magic wand, that is figuring out their B, right? Their B is where they want to go. If you never figure out where exactly somebody is or where somebody wants to go, how can you connect the dots and actually make a sale? That's the problem with most people doing sales, right? Especially with wholesaling, is that they're skipping those two connections and then they try to pitch an offer when they don't know where they are and they don't know what their goal is. That's basically the long and short of it while you're doing this process. Okay. Once they tell you what the issue is or what their dream scenario is, you have to dig deeper. It is okay to get one thing, but you need to understand like what's below that. And yes, you'll have all these resources today to you guys, right? So, got it. Tell me a little bit more about your missed payments and the $20,000 of repairs, right? Or, oh, you got bad tenants? Got it. Tell me a little bit more about those bad tenants. Like, what's going on with them, right? You kind of got to get more and more details out of it. Now, once you figure out the basics of it, right, you get the clarification of what the problem is. Now, this is super important. Some people will regurgitate trash. They'll just tell you all these things, right? Oh, my back hurts, got a downside, all this stuff. You need to take all their information that they gave you, shrink it into like a shot that you can drink, right? That's what we call labeling. You're putting all these problems into a box and into a container, and you're putting a name on it, right? Because what they do is they're thinking about all this stuff that's wrong with them, but they need a vehicle for you to clearly articulate it to them, right? Because they may not know what the problem is. So if you take all that information and it sounds like, right? So it sounds like the big headache is you're 6 months behind on the property. You need about 20 grand in repairs for whatever the case may be. And right now, like you're out of state right now. Is that right? You want to label big headaches. All their problems is a big headache to them, right? So it sounds like the big headache is, and then you restate very clearly what their problem truly is. And you confirm, is that right? Yes, that's right. Okay, now let's talk about the issue. What happens if nothing changes in the next 30 days, right? You can't say 6 months they're losing their house, in 20 days, right? So you got to be a little flexible here. But like, hey, what happens if nothing changes in the next 30 days? Right? So here's the psychology. Labeling. The big headache is makes them feel understood, which increases the trust with the seller and your perceived likelihood of solving it, right? Because how can a seller feel comfortable that you're going to solve their problem if you can't articulate that problem? That's the whole point of this. Okay. The what happens if nothing changes question forces them to verbalize the consequences, right? Oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my house. If I don't sell it or figure out the problem, I may be homeless, right? We've heard all these stories calling sellers. You want to make the pain vivid, unfortunately, right? You need them to understand and become problem aware so that the solution that you offer feels cheap in comparison. Okay. A lot of people will probably minimize. Okay. They'll probably minimize here. Oh, I got to figure it out or I'm good, right? If they do that, you just want to restate the consequence and bring them back to where it's at, right? Totally hear you. At the same time, it sounds like the auction's about 6 days away, and as it house keeps sitting, you're gonna stay super stressed, right? Is that fair? Like, yeah, it is fair. Okay, you're gently agreeing with them because like you probably heard this. Never, no one wants to like be told they're wrong, right? That's like the worst thing that you can do is tell someone that they're wrong. So you just want to agree with them. Ah, totally get it, man. Totally hear it. But, this is still a problem, right? And they're like, yeah, it is. Okay. So once you kind of label their problem here, very, very, very simple stuff. So it is the overview process. So this is how you actually get rid of a ton of objections in a very simple way. And honestly, what we do is usually we just run these questions right down the handle. So like we don't need to change any questions here. Very, very simple. So you want to see the whole board. So if you play chess or checkers, well, checkers is not really too difficult, but like if you do chess, you want to see the whole board, right? You want to see the whole board. So let's get some objections out of the way because if you don't handle this part right here, how many guys, I know Simon's a wholesaler, but like let's say like you get to the offer, right? And you're like, hey, I'm going to make $100,000 offer. And the seller goes, well, I got to talk to my wife. Or I got to talk to that crazy auntie that's a realtor. Oh my gosh. Who got the crazy auntie that's like a realtor, right? That is horrible. I'll tell you. And the reason why is because you didn't handle that up front, right? So let's go to the overview questions. This helps you out tremendously down the road. Influencers are a headache. Yes. So instead of getting to that end of the script, or end of the offer call, you got to find them out right here. Okay. So remember, at this point, I want to put this into some context. You've probably talked to the seller for maybe 10, 15 minutes already. Okay. So you've already kind of like talked to them, guided them through a process. Now you can start diving into problems without like feeling invasive, right? So, okay, cool. So let me ask, and you could be real with me. What have you already tried so far to sell it or fix your situation? Oh, I tried XYZ. So remember how you asked consultative approach? This is how you can find out what's happening right now in this process. So when you ask them, what have you already tried so far or fixed the situation? If they're a foreclosure, they're going to tell you, oh, I tried a loan mod, didn't work. I tried talking to a realtor, but she says like I don't have enough time. The bank doesn't want a short sale, right? I already talked to a bank. Like I've talked to so many foreclosure leads that they always say like, "Oh, I tried talking to the bank and they wouldn't allow a short sale." So now you know all these things that they've tried and they couldn't accomplish. So now you don't have to waste your time going through that stupid process of coaching them through. They already know what it is. So now you know what you can focus on and what you don't have to focus on. You also, most importantly, pulled out information from the seller, them saying like, "Oh, I tried all these things and I effed up, right? And I don't have any more options." Got it. Okay. Next question. Are you talking to any agents or other buyers right now? Yeah, I'm talking to an agent. I'm talking to like 6 investors. So now you're kind of understanding who they're dealing with already, right? And obviously you don't have to be interrogated, but like, okay, cool, like no biggie, like are you know, no worries. You know, we work with a ton of investors and we work with a ton of agents too. Just wanted to see like what type of options that you covered. Okay. Now, this is where the influencer question comes, right? This is the most famous thing. So, this is a really good way to ask a question about influencers because one, it's super relative to the property, and two, it doesn't really come off weird or invasive. And also, this is a really good line if you're talking to probate deals, right? So, besides you, is there anyone else on the loan or on title who'd have to feel good about this? Right? Super simple question. If somebody passed away, they would tell you, like, oh, you know, I'm actually not on the deed. Like, my father is on the deed, but he passed away. Oh, okay. Like, no, hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. You know, have you gone to the probate process yet? Right. So now you can kind of like deviate into that conversation about probate, right? Because you have ton of foreclosures that are probate. So you can have somebody that passed away, father's on the deed, no one's been paying the bill, bank's about to take over that house. The seller can actually most of the time sell the property because they don't own the rights to the property. So this will be a really good time to figure out if they can actually make a decision on it. Okay. Maybe they say, "Oh, my wife or my husband's on the deed." Okay, cool. Like, is he or she available to talk on the phone right now? No, they're not. Okay, when would they be available? Because we actually like to explain the process to both party members at the same time, and it just makes the decision making easier, right? And so we don't have to play phone tag. So you try to get both people on the phone or whatever the case may be. If you can't get them on the phone, make sure that they're available for the offer. Okay. Do not pitch offers without all the decision makers present. It is just chaos, right? Because then if you don't have them both on the line, they're going to have the excuse of going to talk to their family member. Does that make sense, guys? This is a way to figure out the objections right now. Okay. Most importantly, everyone talks about price, right? Ballpark price. Numbers wise, if this worked out and you walked away happy, right? Remind them of the B, right? B is where they want to go. So if this worked out and you walked away happy, about how much would you like to put in your pocket when it's all said and done? I want to say about how much. Okay. I don't want to say how much because when they say how much, that's like solidified in their brain. Okay. About how much. So that could be a range. It could be around 8K, it could be around 15K. I want it to be a range. So you want to frame it that way. Okay. So obviously, I kind of covered the psychology behind this, right? You're uncovering competitors, decision makers early, so the objections don't come up, right? How much would you like to make is aspirational. It's not confrontational, and it gives you a target without really prying in because sellers don't like when you're fucking asking questions, right? Sorry for cursing. I don't know why I just did that. But you want to make sure that they give you some range and they'll feel more comfortable telling you about how much than versus like, how, what's your magic number you're looking for, bro? Right? Oh, we don't want to make an offer unless I figure out what's a good number so we can figure out if we're a good fit. Like just ask that simple question. Okay. Now I highlighted this line orange for a reason. Okay. I highlight this for a reason because at the end of this process of the C.L.O., which is our discovery process, you have two choices that you can take, right? You can say that if the lead is good, you take it to the sales team to close. If it's a bad lead, you can tell the seller they're a bad lead. And there's a whole couple of reasons why I would say that. So if the seller has no urgency, no motivation, no ballpark price at the time that fits what you're looking for, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? After talking to you, I think I got everything on my end. But unfortunately, I don't think that our offer is probably a good fit for you. And then I explain why. Okay. We're not a good offer, or we're probably not a good fit for you, or my offer is not going to be the best for you because what we're looking for is a property on discount because it needs a lot of work, or you need to move fast so we have cash accessible for it, and what you're looking for in price just doesn't really work. I recommend going to a realtor or recommend doing this, right? If any of your situations change, let me know. We can follow up with you in a couple weeks, right? Like, it's okay to tell them it's a no, because a lot of the times, sometimes sellers will feel, why am I not good enough to get an offer from you? And you tell them exactly why. You're very straight. You've been very to the point the entire call. And I usually say, like, hey, you've been super upfront with me. I've been super upfront with you. Unfortunately, after talking to you, I just don't think our offer is the best fit for you because of X, Y, Z. Does that make sense? Or is that fair? I get them to confirm again. Sometimes they may say, shoot, man, like, I really was hoping that I can get an offer. It's like, well, it depends. Like, if something changes in your situation, like if you can give me a range that you're looking for, then I can take it to my team and we can run some numbers on it. But right now, I don't even know what you really want. You sound undecided, and that's okay. But we need to work through this, right? First. Does that make sense, Mr. Seller? So you're actually kind of like trying to lower the resistance. And if they ask you more questions, right? Sometimes they ask more questions. You can actually dig through the prospect a little more to figure out if it's going to be a deal or not. Okay. If you just say, yeah, I'm going to make an offer on you, like they're just going to say no. So you might as well just tell them no now and dig deeper later. Okay. Now, for the sake of the training, let's assume that they're ready to receive an offer. So you get the pain, you label it, you figured out some objections, or you're handling, external customers that they have to deal with. Cool. Mind if I run some numbers and come back with a couple of options for you? This is so key. Come back with a couple of options for you. Why do you think that's important, guys? To say that before we hang up the phone. I'm going to give it 30 seconds. More than just creative. They feel like they have options, bro. You're consulting, right? So now when you start off the offer call and you give them cash and they say, oh no, that's way too low. Okay, what works best for you? Right? And then they give you a number and you're like, okay, like I said, we have a couple of options. If you're looking for that price, the only option that we would have is either list the property for you or we buy your house and pay you over time. Those are our three options for you today. Which one sounds better to you, right? Which one do you prefer, right? And we'll talk about that later. So when you present options to the seller, you're going to tell them, which one do you prefer? You give them the menu and you ask them, which one do you prefer? You're not telling them which one works for you. You want to frame it like, which decision is the best for you? And then they're going to tell you, like, oh, option C is the best for me. So you've kind of mini closed them already in their head because you told them, like, which option do you prefer? I prefer C. Oh, great. What about C? Right? You see what I'm saying? If you just pitch them offers like cash, creative, realtor, hey, which one works best for you? Right? It's like they're going to be like, oh, I don't really like any of them. But if like, hey, like, which one do you prefer? Which one do you like? Which one works better for you right now, bro? And then they're like, oh, I want C. So like you're basically guiding them through the process of where you want to take them, right? This is the difference between controlling a conversation and just having a conversation. This is how we control, okay? We are driving the ship. We are driving the car, okay? Does this make sense, guys? Right, Manny? feel like they have options. Lazaro, hey, you're giving them options to their problem to solve, right? Everyone's agreeing. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. So offer call. I know we're talking about a script, but let's talk about the sales process in terms of offer calls, okay? So I want to ask you guys, when somebody says yes to you, okay? Like or someone is like a good fit, what do you do? Oh, like do you say like I got to talk to my financial partner and then we'll call, right? All that stuff. So what we usually do, we're very upfront with them. So cool. Think you're a good fit, bro. We're gonna talk to our team, kind of figure it out. And then we're gonna see like what options we could do for you. And then that call will be like 30 minutes. We'll talk about how much, the offer is. And then we're gonna explain what it looks like to work with us, right? So the reason why a lot of people get ghosted on the next call is because, unfortunately, they don't set any expectations. So the seller doesn't know when they're going to talk to you, what we're going to talk about when we're actually on the phone. So let's be very upfront. Hey, we're going to run some number. It'll take 30 minutes. And actually, I can put you on hold if you really want, right? Like sometimes you can keep them on the phone. If you already know your numbers, like screw it, right? Number two, if you are off the phone, you want to schedule another call and actually schedule a time. Don't say like, "Are you free in 30 minutes?" Just be like, "I'll call you at 5 p.m. today if that works." Or I could do 6. You give them options, right? 5 or 6, which one works for you? So, when you book a call during your underwriting process, get your damn contract ready. Okay? Write the contract down and just leave the price empty unless it's creative. If it's a cash deal, have that bad boy ready. The only thing that you need to do is put in the cash number that you guys agreed to. Everything else should be prepped. Why do I say that? The worst thing in the freaking world is you get a verbal yes, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to do the contract, and you send it out an hour later. And then they never hear from you again, or they just ignore you or ghost you, or they shop your offer around. Okay? Prep your stuff now so then when you make the offer and they say yes, okay, can I put you on like a 5-6 minute hold where we have the contract ready? We're just going to wrap it up and send it over to you, right? We're going to send the purchase agreement over to you. Okay, boom, pause. Okay, get them on hold, wait a little bit. Hey man, did you get it yet? No. Are you by your computer or by your phone? Yeah. Okay, cool. Like let me resend it again. Boom. Now they're looking at their phone and they see the contract. Right? You want to make sure that they're in front of a vehicle that they can actually read your contract. Amazing. So we're actually going to walk through that contract. Okay. Then you get them to sign at the end. Right. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that process before we go into the offer call. Okay. So we are now in the offer call, and this is the last 3 letters of closer. Right. So this is S.E.R. So in S, you want to sell the solution. Okay. So everything's a sales process. So you want to rehash what A and B you found, right? So last time we talked, you said that you haven't been paying your mortgage. You're a couple of weeks away from the foreclosure, and you need to kind of figure out a problem before you end up homeless, right? And you really want to get rid of this mortgage, have this behind you, looking for $8,000 to $10,000 in your pocket within 14 days. Is that still right? Or you want to quickly rehash that. So the thing is, remember, guys, if you guys did not figure out this part of the call, to clarify, so I don't waste your time, what's going on with the property, why are you considering? And then if I wave the magic wand and figured out where you want to be in the next 30 days, how can you actually give them the offer? I just wanted to show you that. If you don't figure out A or B, how do you get to this point and expect the seller to say yes to you? That's the key thing, right? That's why C.L.O. and discovery is the most important part of any sales process, any sales call. You could be selling life insurance, you could be selling real estate, you could be selling anything you want. That is the problem, right? That's where you guys are missing. Okay. So you replay the pain and the dream, and this spikes emotional salience. So what the phenomenon of like a salivating mouth when good food, right? You want to remind them why they're on this call. Okay. Now you're now you're gonna sell this. So how many guys have scripts And you can tell me, don't be embarrassed. How many people open up their phone call, their cold call with this? What we do is buy as is, we don't do repairs, and we cover all the closing costs, right? You say that in the very beginning, right? That's so dumb. Like it's a waste of your time. Okay. You want to do it here after you've had so much rapport, great conversation, you're at the offer call. It's time to bring that out now. Because remember, you're selling the offer. Okay. So you rehash their pain, reinvigorate their goal so they know why they're here, and then you immediately sell your offer. So I just want to let you know, you probably already know this or heard from different investors, but what we do is we buy your house as is. Okay. You don't have to do any of the repairs. We cover all the standard closing costs, right? And we handle all the paperwork. And we can be done by 14 days. Does that line up with you with what you're hoping for? Okay, you're selling it at the end. You're stacking reductions in time delay, right? Done by 14 days. You have no effort. We're doing all the work. You don't need to do any repairs. Remember, why does someone want to take a house on a discount? It's because you're providing them convenience or you're providing them speed. So the three pillars, right? I know my partner Phil has talked about this on his trainings, but there's three pillars, right? There's price, speed, and convenience. So you can't lower price if you don't increase convenience or if you don't increase speed. Okay? This is why you're bringing this back up again. You're priming them to take a lower offer. So you can say, we do all this stuff. You don't need to do this. It's just super easy. We take all the photos for you. We do all of that madness for you. All you have to do, sign on a dotted line and get paid at the end of get paid in 14 days. Fair? Fair. Okay. Now, explain the numbers. A lot of people will tell you not to explain the numbers. My God, how many of you guys have bought like coaching programs or anything like that, and nobody really tells you how it's working, right? If you've been to any sales training, Jeremy Miner, Alex Hermosi, they all tell you to be very upfront, right? Honesty sells. Honesty crushes. Even my mentor, right? My old mentor, Pace Morby, said the truth sells in terms of, hey, have I ever told you how I make money in real estate? And they're like, no. Like, okay, well, we actually fix houses and flip them. That's how I put food on the table. And that's why I need to buy at a discount. And then you insert some weird third party story of saying, have you ever bought a car before? And then they go, yeah, I bought a 2025, brand new Ford F-150. Okay. Would you pay for a 1999 Ford F-150 the same price that you would pay a 2025 car? And they'd say no. Okay, so how would you justify me paying you retail price on your older home that needs repairs, that needs renovations? I have to pay for it as a 1999 Ford F-150 to be able to fix it up and resell it for that nice value. That's how I make money, right? That builds trust. It tells them what exactly you're doing, right? So how I do it is I actually explain this situation. So this actually prevents the way you're explaining this part right now is you're actually going to try to prevent all those. Well, on Zillow it says 300 grand and I want to sell it for 300 grand. Like this helps you get over that objection. Okay? So, let's talk about it. After you sell it, like we buy as is, blah, 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 now you're going to explain the numbers. You're going to go straight into it because the reason why is you get the agreement, right? So you say, does that line up for you? Does that line up with what you were hoping for? If they say yes, you're basically getting an agreement on the type of car they're going to buy before you even mention the price. If you're a car salesman, how can you like pitch a price of a car if the person never told you that they were interested in that car? You got to get them in the seat before you start driving. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what this whole thing is. You're trying to figure out if this actually works and you're getting a confirmation. Then you go straight into the next part. So explain the numbers. So looking at similar properties and what it'll take to fix this up and get a buyer on our end. So we're telling them right now. We're telling them right now. that we're flipping the house. We may wholesale the house. They just know we're not going to hold this bad boy forever. Okay. And you're telling them exactly what you're doing. So looking at similar properties, this is the comps in the area. So trying to justify why we're giving them this price. So looking at similar properties and what it'll take to fix this up and get a buyer on our end, here's what we can do. Okay. To get you out by 14 days with no repairs, no fees, we can be at $128,600 cash and close on your timeline. And you don't say a word. And the reason why my number was so weird, 128,800, is because I want to make sure that it sounds like I really dug into the numbers and I tried to figure out the best solution or price possible. If you say something like a flat 125, 124, it's very generic. So, hey, the best we can do is $124,650. What? Damn, you guys really pulled out the calculator for me, right? Like, we really dug through this. Okay. Cash and close on your timeline. And you don't say a word. You wait for what they say. Okay. The first person to talk in sales, crazy. I'm telling you, Simon, that shit works. 28 cents. 28 cents and fifth of a dollar, right? You start laughing, right? Right, whatever. So if they push back on the price, which will happen, okay? They will definitely push back sometimes, and that's okay. Totally fair, you want more. And if you notice, I never argue with the seller, right? I never, never, never argue with the seller because that pisses them off. You want to reaffirm them, lower the defense. Totally fair, you want more. I'd want the same way. Can I walk you through how we got to that number so we can still, if it still makes sense for you, validate the objection, lower the fence, and invite them into talking about the math. Okay? Transparency, like I said earlier, increases trust and that you're not trying to screw them over. Okay? My first offer is a bit lower, so I have, yep, exactly. So that's what I usually do as well. So I usually go lower than my max allowable. So if they do deny it, I ask them, hey, like, is that the best you can do? Or like, is there somewhere in the middle that we can make this work? If they meet me in the middle, like, hey, they feel like they won the negotiation and I can get a contract signed. But you never want to go like at your MAO off the rip because you have no room to negotiate other than like going creative. And like most people like shouldn't go creative anyway. Like they should just stick to cash or like realtor referrals just because it gets a little complicated when you start wholesaling creative deals. But yeah, Simon's absolutely right. Cash is king. Cash is king because it moves the fastest, easiest BS you can deal with. Okay. So I 100% agree. So after you talk about, can I walk you through how I got that number? They're going to say yes or no. If they say yes, based on the fixed up value of about $190,000 minus the $50,000 in work, minus all the holding costs and closing fees that I'm going to pay, and the profit that our buyer needs it at, that puts us around this number. Given all that I'm kind of explaining to you, does $128,600.24 still feel totally off? Or is it in the realm of possible for you? Right? You turn the take it or leave it into a joint problem. We're on the same team now. Can we make this work? Is it in the realm of possible to make this work? Right? Realm of possible invites negotiation on terms, not rejection, right? Now we're trying to see if we can make this work. Okay. So I got a question here. Do you ever just offer 5K even if there's a 70K spread? I'm going to let Phil kind of dig through that question. I have no idea what that exactly means. Okay. So I'm going to have him kind of dig through that. Okay. If they want more money, right? If you need a little bit more, the only way that we can get closer is if you're giving them options. So remember what I told you guys about option selling? This is where the options kind of play. So if you need a little bit more money, the only way that we can get closer is if we push the closing date, handle whatever, we structure some payments. So like I would just usually go, hey, if we can get a little closer, if you allow us to give you a little bit money now, and then we pay you a set amount of time, right? That would be owner financing or subject to, right? Or option two, we actually can get you a higher price, but you're going to have to pay closing costs, right? Or you're going to have to pay some money out of pocket. So we're like exchanging things, right? If you guys see it, you can't just be like, okay, that doesn't work, or like blah blah blah. Like, hey, I'll give you 130 if you pay the closing costs, because you're exchanging the value, right? So they want a higher price. I'm taking away easiness, convenience, or I'm taking away speed. If you want a higher price, Mr. Seller, I need to go talk to my bank, and that's going to take 30, 40 days in order to get qualified to get that price. Does that make sense, guys? Like, that's super, super crazy to think about. Is you're telling them the truth. If they want retail price, well, it's going to be a lot longer. So that you take away the time aspect of it and say, well, I need to go get qualified for a loan, and that takes 30 to 40 days, right? And I can give you 130, but if you want speed, like you're telling me of what we talked about before, you told me that you need to get out of the house in 15 days. I can give you that price, right? Now, which feels closer to what you want? Now we're going to the offer, right? The option close. We can do terms, give you this much money, pay you over time, or you pay the fees and it takes a little longer for us. Which feels closer to what you want? And I kind of explained the options here, right? We can go creative, lower cash price, need a later date, you can pay closing costs, right? These are different options, but you tell them which one they want. Sometimes they may just stick with your offer, right? So you're kind of giving them those choices. Okay. Now you're at the end of the call. You're at the end. If it's a yes, they say yes. Now we want to make sure that we reassure them that it's going to happen, so they actually stay on the phone to sign this purchase agreement. Okay. This is where a lot of people jack up. We kind of talked about this earlier. Okay. Awesome. Just we're on the same page. You're getting that 14-day close. You're getting that earnest money. You're getting that certainty that we're going to close this bad boy. And you don't do a single thing. You give them the ease. What I'll do is I'll email the agreement to timmy922@gmail.com while we're on the phone, and we'll walk through it together. We aim to have it signed today so we can get the ball rolling. Sounds good? Whoa, guys, how simple is that? Okay. And like I said, you prep the contract before you make the offer, you get it to them while they're on the phone. We'll walk through it together. We aim to have it signed today so we can get the ball rolling. How many people are like, I got to think about it? Or, oh, I don't like to be pressured, right? You're getting confirmation right now that they understand what they're getting themselves into. So they don't be surprised when you try to force them to sign a contract like, hey, like with company policies, 24 hours. No, you telling them right now. And you're telling them that they have to decide, right? While we're on the phone, we'll walk through it. We aim to have it signed today so we can get the ball rolling. Does that sound good? Yes. Perfect. Okay. This is what we call an assumed close. Okay. This is assuming they're going to close and they're going to sign. That gives them confirmation that they're probably going to say yes. They feel good about it. They know they're going to do it, right? This is why we say it this way. Now the objections happen, right? If I need to talk to somebody, okay, we get this all the time. Totally get it. This is a big decision. Besides time to think, what would you need to see or understand to feel comfortable moving forward? Usually, you've heard this in all trainings, right? That you need to talk to somebody is usually BS. It's usually some weird reason that you need to kind of figure out. So we just want to see what they're going to say. Like, besides time, what would you need to see or understand to feel comfortable moving forward? You let them tell them what the problem is, and then you can kind of try to get to it right there on the phone. Okay. If they need more time, then bam fam. That means book an appointment basically. Bam fam is a Hermosi thing, right? We all follow this method, but it's basically book an appointment. So either way, let's do this so you're not in limbo. Let's set up a quick call, today or tomorrow at 5 p.m. after you've talked to Jeanette, your wife. I'll answer any last questions and you can tell me yes or no. Does that time work, or is 6 p.m. tomorrow work better? You see what I'm saying? Everything we do is an option, right? If they have an option, they can pick one. And also, we're not going to fight them anymore. Get the real objection, book a call after they talk, because you don't want to push, and then they eventually just ghost you, right? So just this is pretty much a very simple way. Does anybody have any questions about this kind of process? And is it simple? Does it make sense? Like, to give us, so just give me some feedback and then we can kind of go into the next chapter here. Okay. Dang, let's go. I'm crushing it. All right, cool. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna talk about another thing here. So we're gonna talk about the giveaway. So what we're gonna do is make sure you tag me, right? We want to spread the love about sales process, right? A more clear sales process here, and then we'll announce the winner at the end. So all the scripts and all the documents that I'm going to show you today, we'll drop that in the recording for you guys, so you guys have it, and I know who attended live, so you guys will get it. Okay. The most important thing is, let's talk about objections. Okay. Can you guys give me some objections that you guys have already received? I know you guys have had objections, so please share them in the chat for me. I need to drink this Alani here and give my voice a break. Price is usually from the sales process. A cold shoulder seller that makes it crazy hard during discovery page. Okay. I wouldn't say that's an objection. That's like kind of like a personality thing. So like actually, Phil and I were talking about this the other day. We were talking about how our CRM for acquisition managers. So we're making massive changes to the CRM in terms of, how you can label sellers. So like when you talk to a seller, what their personality is, marking that personality type so you can put the right acquisition rep to that seller. Now, if somebody is like kind of cold shouldering you, just be like, hey man, it sounds like you're just not really serious about getting rid of this. And that's okay, man. I just want to make sure we're not wasting time. Like, you just got to call them out on their bullshit. Like, hey man, like, do you actually want to solve your problem? It seems like you're not, and you're just shopping around. And dude, that's okay, bro. I just don't want to like, waste our time if you're not actually ready to move forward. No, I'm ready to move forward. I'm just pissed off that you keep asking me these stupid questions. Okay, like hey, apologize if I upset you, but like, what questions do you think are annoying? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what your situation is, and then we can kind of talk through some options, right? Does that make sense, Trishan? Lazaro. Ghosting after the offer where you have to follow up. Okay, we kind of already talked about that, right? You get the offer, all that stuff, blah, 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 and then you get them to confirm. You send the purchase agreement right there on the phone while they're on there. You explain the purchase agreement. I promise you, if you follow this script, you're going to have way less problems getting to that signed contract. Okay. Price always. Okay. So let me see something here. You're going to see 6 objections, right? Price offer too low. Okay. So here is the big thing. When you talk about objections, guys, right? If you talk about objections, you can have I got to talk to my wife, got to talk to my spouse, too low, whatever the case may be. Every objection can be placed into 6 buckets. 6 buckets. Okay. That's what you need to understand is no matter how complicated or weird their question is or objection, you can probably put into one of these 6 buckets. Okay. And like I said, you don't need 47 different ways to attack these. You need 1 to 2 main things per objection bucket, but you run them the same way every single time. Right. And I see your comments in the chat. Don't worry. I'm going to answer all your problems. Okay. There's a pattern to all of these things, right? No matter what they say, you got to follow this method. Acknowledge their problem, clarify what the yes would look like, so what the solution is, re-anchor to their problem and to their outcome. Remember, so discovery is super important. present 1 to 2 concrete options, and then lock the next step in. Like, just move on, right? Get rid of it, lock it in, move forward, okay? So let's talk about the 6 buckets overall, and then let's kind of dig deep, okay? So I'm gonna pan out this frame here. Okay, so number 1 is price and offers too low, right? So obviously a lot of people experience this. We're gonna talk about this more in depth today. We'll talk about a few of these today. Number 2 is timing and delays, right? I'm not ready to sell yet. Let's wait until the market gets better. Oh my god, that pisses me off. Number 3, a decision maker. I got to talk to my attorney, right? So I see Vandy's comment. I need to talk to my attorney. Talk to my agent friend. Alternate path. So this is a really complicated one, right? It could be a lot of things. Alternate path objections is like, oh, I'm dealing with an agent, or I want to sell it. I want to sell it myself, or I'm getting a ton of offers. And I want to shop around. They don't believe that you're their best path. And that's a lot of reason why people don't want to do business with you, right? When you hear someone say, like, oh, I already signed a contract with somebody else because they thought the other path is better. Okay. Obviously, trust and credibility, and then logistics, right? Who's been to like any of my like live trainings before? Anybody? I don't know if anybody in here has been to my live ones, like where they're actually in the office with me. But I talk about this freaking crazy story that ended up getting us a $13,000 assignment fee. Was I talked to the seller, we go through all this back and forth on the process, and I asked her this question, right? Hey, is there anything else that we need to kind of talk about or that you need to solve before we move forward? And she's like, dude, I've talked to like all these investors and I couldn't make a decision because I have this like old cuckoo clock, right? It's from Germany. It's like super heavy, all this stuff. I don't want it. I don't want to have it. And I don't know what to do with it if I sold my house. I'm like, is that it? And she's like, yeah. I was like, what if I just paid for a moving company? Or like, want me to just like take it and buy it or whatever? And she's like, dude, if you can move it for me, like that'd be amazing. Like, I'm ready to sign right now. Right? Logistics. You'd be surprised how crazy whatever's holding a seller back. Okay. So that was like one of our craziest deals just by asking her about her damn cuckoo clock. Right. And a lot of people kind of already know that story, but that's like the perfect example. So, all right, let's talk about price too low. Right. I know a lot of you guys kind of feel this one. So these are the big questions or big answers you get. Right. Oh, no, your offer's too low. All right, I need at least 200 grand or I'm not selling, or I need at least 350 grand or just not worth getting rid of it. Or another investor offered me 400, or Zillow tells me it's 400, right? Or I'd rather, at this point, I'd rather just fix this up and sell it for the top dollar, right? Crazy. Or I want to walk away with 40 grand. Oh my God. I had a call the other day. This lady owes like 40K in taxes and all this stuff. And she's like, I need to walk away with 40 grand. It's like, all right, in my mind, I'm like, you can walk away, you could try to walk away with 40 grand, or you can just lose your house. Like, you just got to make a choice, but you can't be rude about it, right? So, what does all this mean? Every objection comes down to one thing. There's an underlying fear. And the fear is that they're leaving money on the table. So, how do you kind of object that, right? So, every one of these objection buckets has a goal. So, the goal is to change the terms or the structure, not the same thing for cheaper, right? Competing on the price kills you. So, if you're competing with like 6 different investors, just raising your price ain't gonna make you money, guys. Guys, do not chase the deal. I know it's so hard to believe that, but like if you raise your price and the deal doesn't work, you can't sell it, and then the seller gets effed. So you need to negotiate with the seller. Okay, you're changing the structure of the deal. You're not doing the same shit for cheap, right? You're taking option off the table, guys. I can't give you 180 grand, Mr. Seller, because according to the math and according to the process, right? That's why we're at this number. That's why you have to kind of go to that process. The process primes them for certain things. If you don't follow the process, they're going to give you these crazy ass objections, and then you got to handle them face on, right? The whole purpose of a sales process is to get rid of these before you even have to deal with them, because they get harder down the road. Okay. So this is how I would kind of attack it, right? Totally fair, you want more. I'd feel the same way, right? We're affirming. Out of curiosity, how far do you feel we are from the number you actually say yes to? You let them answer that as best you can because they already know your price. So it's like, hey, like what would you actually say yes to? Okay, cool. So given everything that you told me about the 6 months of missed payments, the 20 grand of repairs, and just dealing with all this stress of like different investors, different banks calling you, if we can solve all of that for you by 14 days, is there any world where 128,600 bucks and 24 cents works? Or do you absolutely need to be at 150,000? Right? You are literally attacking it straight into their face. Straight, you want to call them out. Like, what can we do? Is it like mandatory 150 or like what can we do here? Okay. If they need more because they need more, okay, you're going to go into the options. So, guys, what I told you in the script is how you would handle the price objection, right? You be honest. I can only get closer if this deal changes a bit. For example, if you handle the closing costs, right? Or we have to close at a later date. And the reason why I have to close at a later date is because if I need to hire money, I need to go get an actual bank loan, right? I don't have 160 grand in my pocket, but I have 128,000 in my pocket, right? And then we're gonna have to close later. I can sharpen the pencil some between options A, B, or C. Which one actually helps you more, right? Which one actually helps you more? You got to give them a choice. And then you want them to tell you what that choice was, right? And you kind of like, hey, okay, cool. Like, why does this work better for you? Well, at the end of the day, sir, I just want to make 150 because that's what I think my house is worth. Perfect. Let's do an owner finance deal. Let's do a subject to deal, sir. Right? You're gonna let them tell you what the answer is. Now, you're going to get some people that are just absolutely say no. But remember, in the script, we said that we wanted to present them options. So some of you guys are realtors. I'm not a realtor, but I make a ton of money just referring deals to agents, right, through marketing fees. And bro, anytime a seller is like, I just want retail, it's like, are you in a rush? No, I'm not in a rush. I have 3 to 6 months. Okay, like, bro, what if I just list this property for you? Oh, you can do that? Yeah. I mean, we prefer to buy it. We make more money selling it, right? Being transparent. We make more money selling it, as a flip or as an investment deal, but I'd be happy to help you get the price that you want. And I think your house is worth this much if we sell on the market. Sound fair? Cool. Get the listing. Okay. A lot of different ways you can kind of skin the cat here, but you got to give them some options. Okay. This is kind of whatever. I don't really want to talk about it unless you guys want to talk about timing delays, but I kind of want to talk about like the bigger objections. So like out of the six, which one other than price is usually something that you guys can't handle or having struggles with? Spouse? Okay. So let's talk about that, right? So let's talk about the decision maker. This is what the decision maker objection is. So I need to talk to my spouse, my kids, or I had someone tell me I gotta speak to God about it. Yeah, I'm like, okay, like, what is he gonna tell you? Like, you're losing your house, like, but I'm like, I totally understand, right? So I can't decide on my own. My attorney needs to talk to you or whatever. This is all a decision maker objection, right? Their fear. If I decide alone and it's wrong, I'll look stupid or get blamed, right? If that's what their true fear is, pray on the phone with them, bro. That's actually savage. Okay, so yo, dude. um, dude, that's really crazy. Okay, so um, if this is actually their objection, right? It's if I decide alone it's wrong, I look stupid, right? Instead of like being like, whatever. Yeah, I can't even focus right now. That comment was actually crazy. Okay. So rebuttal, get all the buyers into the room, right? Or at least get a follow-up committed. So like I said in the sales process, we want to make sure that everybody is on the phone when you make that offer, right? When you drop that. Because you don't want okay, I'm gonna talk to them. Like you want to get them on the phone. Okay. So cool. I'm glad you want to get them involved. I would too. But just two quick questions. If they say I'm good with whatever you decide, how do you feel about the offer? When are you going to talk to them next? Bro, this question, how savage is this? If they say, I'm good with the offer, with whatever you decide, how do you feel about the offer? So you are trying to get the truth out of them. Oh man, yeah, I actually really like the offer. I think it's fair. Okay, cool. So like when are you talking with them next? You see what I'm saying? This is a way to kind of azimuth check or temperature check your offer. Hey, how do you feel about it, bro? Oh, I actually feel really good about it. Okay, cool. Like, when are you gonna talk to them about it next? If they say they don't feel good about it, be like, okay, like, what about the offer doesn't work for you? Then you can handle the real objection. Does that make sense? This is a way to figure out if it's the truth or not. Okay. Motivation always triumphs the price. Absolutely. You know your spouse better than I do. What questions would they have that I could go over and answer it so you can relay it? Love that answer as well. Love that question as well, right? Hey, before I go, what questions do you have, or what questions do you think your spouse would have? So I'm better prepared to talk to you guys next. So that's usually what I say if I need to reschedule a call, right? So if it's a positive response, perfect. So why don't we do this? Let's get them on the phone now so we can look at it together. If not possible, let's book a call. And it's like, hey, before we go, what questions do you think your spouse would have? So I'm better prepared when we actually speak, right? I want to get to the real objection even before I speak to the wife. I want to try to get it out of her, right? I want to get it out of the spouse right now. Okay. Then you follow the process of BAM fam. Let's book a quick call. And then all you can ask me, blah, 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 day or time, and it better work for you, right? Same thing. Okay. Vandy, does that help you guys with the significant other? Now we can talk about certain topics. Like for lawyers, I would just say, yeah, no worries, bro. Like, would you want my attorney to like give you a call or send you the contract? Like which one do you prefer? Like our lawyers can talk to each other, bro. Like I don't care, right? Sometimes they want that. So just kind of depends. Like, hey, what concerns do you have? But ultimately, it's what concerns do you have? So then we can talk about it. So if he says, "Oh, my attorney needs to talk about it," like, "Hey, what issues do you have?" If your attorney said yes, how would you feel about the offer? Right? It's the same thing. You could just fill in whatever line that you want to fill in. If your lawyer says yes, I'm good with whatever you decide. How do you feel about it? Right? If your cousin wants to do it, boom. Can you put little attorney review period in the contract? 90% they don't actually have a lawyer. Um, I mean, that's during the inspection period, I suppose. But I would say, like, you can always word it like, hey, um, saying that you have an attorney at the end kind of gets them to like feel a little better. It's like, I don't want to send any contract, bro. I don't want to send anything to them without them getting on the phone and talking to me about it, because here's the problem, bro. The problem is you're going to send them an offer and you've lost, right? I literally have a student right now that excitedly called me yesterday. It was like, I got a contract done, right? And I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, well, I sent him an email and 6 days later he signed it. I'm like, yeah, because he shopped around and your price was the highest and your MAO is completely wrong and he can't sell the deal now. Now I'm like, oh my God, now I got to help him try to like restructure the deal, right? So like never send them something. If you send someone an email with an offer and they sign it 7 days later, 9 out of 10 times you were the loser in that negotiation, right? You had 10K over everybody else and you signed it. Okay. That provides more clarity and better structure to respond and redirect. Absolutely, Manny. Okay. Manny says it always happens. You send documents and they ghost. Yes, you don't send it to them. You get them on the phone, right? Follow this process. I promise you'll have more conversions because you get them on the phone and you send them the contract immediately after they say yes. Don't hang up the phone and then an hour, you're typing up your contract, you send it, and then they never sign it. You get them on the phone. They're fresh, right? It's like anybody that comes off of, you know, you want to like in wholesaling, unfortunately, you got to get someone at their like most vulnerable, which is when you've dug out the pain and like the struggles and then your solution, right? They are fresh off down the call. So when you hang up the phone, right? Now they're cooling off and you're like busy trying to sign your contract. When they get the contract, they may just say like, oh, like I've thought about it. I don't want to deal with it. Right. That's probably why that's happening. Yes. Carrie's right. don't give them an out or don't give them time to get out of their emotions, right? They are fresh, they are motivated. Get them on the phone, leave them on the phone, get that contract out them to them immediately and walk them through the steps. Okay? Wow. Okay. My voice. I want to talk about this last one here, the alternate paths objection. So a lot of people actually deal with this objection, but don't really know. Okay. These are what like most of us deal with, but we don't even realize it. So like when competing investors are talking, you got realtors calling, like, bro, I know somebody that paid 10 grand for a direct to agent or like for sale by owner mentorship. So basically they're getting taught sales and how to call for sale by owners to convince them for listings. So like you're not just competing with guys like us, you're competing with realtors, right? So you're competing against all those people. So what you need to figure out is what options they're thinking, right? And how your option kind of fits best for them, right? So their underlying fear is your path actually better than what I already understand, right? You want to make sure that like your option is the best, okay? So your goal is to compare based on their priorities, right? The three pillars: speed, certainty, repairs, right? I would say repairs is ease, right? Not the price. So you want to talk about their priorities, not about what actually your offer is, okay? So, hey, I can already sell it on for sale by owner or FISBO, right? For sale by owner. I'm going to list it with an agent instead. If you guys are an agent, you don't need to use this. Obviously, I would just try to list it myself. But if you're not an agent and you want to do a cash deal, just keep following along. Okay. Totally makes sense to explore options. When you think about what you told me, right? Being done with by 14 days, not putting 30K into repairs because you don't have the money, and you just want to just move out of this foreclosure, right? How many guys have you been to my training? And I say this, which matters most to you? Once again, we go to the option side of closing. Okay. Which one matters most to you? Getting the absolute max dollar or being done fast and hassle free, right? Or it could be whatever option you want. Trying to get that max dollar of 180,000 or being done fast with a guaranteed close. I like to say it like that, right? Someone that can actually perform. Do you want someone that can guarantee this close? Or do you want the absolute try to max dollar, right? Whatever they choose. If they say max dollar, keep going, right? So if they say max dollar, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna go retail listing or creative deal. If they say they're being done and hassle free, I'm gonna try to push that cash offer. Does that make sense, guys? The option, the path they choose is how the call should be influenced. I want to make sure you guys understand. So please put a yes in the chat or a Y, whatever the case may be. I need affirmation. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. 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 All right. Cool. So I want to make sure you guys understand. Okay. And I want to make sure you guys aren't asleep. Okay. So so let's say like, they want, whatever path they choose, you just keep going. Right. So let's keep going with the script. Awesome. If an agent gets you more on paper, but it takes 3 months, it takes you to repair and all the showings, it's not guaranteed. And we're here at $128,400.24, all cash, no repairs, done in 14 days. Which one actually fits your life better right now? You see what I'm saying? If you're an agent, guys, like obviously don't use this, but I use it when someone says, I'm going to listen with an agent. Yeah, no, totally get it, bro. Like if an agent gets you more on paper, but it takes all this BS, remember, you're rehashing their priorities and pains that they've told you during the process call, right? Which one actually fits your life better right now? Let them choose. If they still lean an agent, totally fine if that's the route. How about this? If anything changes or doesn't go your way you're hoping, can I be your plan B and revisit this number in like 2 weeks or 1 week? Right? Depending on the timeline, you just put it in there, right? So if they're saying that they need an agent, this is the offer. Okay. Same thing with for sale by owner. Okay. If you sell it by your own, you'll probably get more on paper, but usually it takes a few months more. You probably have to do repairs yourself. You have to do all the showings yourself if you did it by yourself, and the price is not guaranteed. But if we're here at 128,600 bucks 24 cents, all cash done by 14 days, which one fits your life better right now? You see what I'm saying? How I can use the same thing over and over and over again to try to get the right answer out of the seller, no matter what choice they make, right? I already have offers, but I think I'll go with them. Okay. Hey, your other offer may get you more money on paper, but it could take a couple of months. You got to do a bunch of showings, right? Are they actually going to buy the house, or are they actually trying to market it, right? You got to try to like use that same framework over and over and over again on different objections. Cool? Cool. All right. Is this like helpful? Like, do you guys want to go through another one, or like, are you guys good and you want me to move over to like more of like the sales team training and all that stuff? I want to make sure that you guys are getting the best bang for your buck on this wonderful Saturday, even though it's freezing cold over here where I'm at. Should I keep going on objections, or should I move on? Damn, see, Lazaro is the man, bro. All right, cool. All right, logistics. All right, life situation. This is a very broad topic. This could be whatever you guys think, right, can happen. These are all the weird answers, right? I don't know if where I'd go, right? These are people that don't know where they want to move to. I need time to find another place. I got to move. I can't afford closing costs. I got all these taxes. Tenants won't cooperate. Out of state. These are logistics. This is a pretty big one as well. Okay. What they actually fear is selling solves one problem, but it creates all the other problems. Okay. Solve these problems too. That's your goal. Totally get that. Selling is the easy part, but moving is a headache, right? So the good news is we can structure things around that. For example, I can give you 15 days after closing the move out. I can help with your junk removal, leaving any unwanted items, and I can actually buy it with tenants in place so you don't have to fight them, right? So if we handled getting your tenants involved, like taking over for your tenants and dealing with all that struggle, would the number and timing we talked about work for you, right? You don't, I know so many wholesalers that kind of preemptively offer this stuff. So, like, and that's a fireable offense on my team. Okay. That's a very fireable offense on my team, even if it's wholesaling or, email marketing, whatever the case may be. Like, if my sales rep offered more things than they had to, like, they're getting fired. Like, you need to go through and pull out the ace in the card when it's time to pull out the ace in the card. Okay. Don't give up all your cards at the poker table. If they're having problems at this point with logistics, then you bring out the logistical thing. So totally get it. Selling is the easy part. The moving piece is the headache. The good news is that we can structure things around that, right? We can do X, Y, Z. If we handled your inserted problem, would the number and timing we talked about work for you? You're always trying to get the confirmation out of them. Okay. This is a very easy way to do this. Does that make sense, guys, for logistical? You just want to give them the options, and then you want to say, if we handled that one problem that you had, does the number and timing work we talked about? So if they say yes, then great. Let's get the contract done. Okay, cool. I'm going to freaking can I put you on hold? Yeah, I'm going to send you over the purchase agreement now, and then we'll go over the contract together. Okay. Once you kind of get that confirmation that we solved that problem, you're ready to go. You're ready to rip that purchase agreement straight out. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's look at the agenda here. I know I totally ditched the slides. Have you guys noticed I'm like so bad at slides? I just don't want to deal with it. Right. Okay. So let's talk about the scoring rubric. Actually, let's talk about how we kind of run our team. I think this is super important. So one thing, use AI for slides. I did use AI, actually. I used Gamma AI to make my slides. Yes, there will be a recording. I know I'm like talking a lot. I will try to give you guys the recording, okay? So this is super important, guys. This is super, super, super important because the weekly calendar of how you run your sales team, because I know some of you guys actually run your teams. Does anybody in here run your own sales teams? I know Carrie does. I know Rich does. You guys are dogs. One man show. Okay. Anybody else? Vandy, you already have all the docs. I gave you all the docs. You're one of our VIPs, homie. I take care of you first. Cool. Jen's got a team, one woman show. I love it. Guys, I will tell you guys can absolutely crush as a one man or one woman team. You can also crush with like 2 to 3 people. So if you guys don't know my team, I have a team of like 3. So I got 2 lead managers, 1 acquisition rep, and then myself as a sales director slash manager. And as you can see, this is like my sole job is to review calls, train, make people better, right? That's what I do for my sales team. Okay. That's what you need to do for your own team and also for yourself. Okay. This is super important for yourself to get into the rhythm of training people and getting on a normal cadence. Okay. So this is what we usually do. So every day, a daily huddle. I talked to Rich the other day and I told him, I was like, bro, you're not doing enough sales training. Okay. Takes 15 to 30 minutes out of your day. And your goal is to get reps every day, be very clear, get people competitive on your team, and you sharpen their skills, right? If it's just you and one other person, then you want to compete with that person, right? You and your acquisition manager need to compete, get competitive on getting more deals, right? More deals, everyone gets paid. You want to do every workday, same time, same day, right? Every day, same time, be consistent. You need the consistency in your business. If you're not consistent with training, you're not consistent with the small things, right? If you can't do training at the same time every day, same day of the week, right? You're gonna have issues. What's your favorite scorecard? Scorecard, the 3 right here, very simple, right? There's so many different KPIs, trackers, metrics, all that fun stuff. I think it gets overwhelming. People just need to focus on just getting better, right? And just meeting every day and being consistent, right? It is the routine that gets you better at things. So when you talk to your acquisition managers, track dials, conversations, offers made, contracts made. Okay. And then your conversations, you can add this. This is a little more advanced, but like quality conversations. How many quality conversations are you having to figure out if your marketing is actually effective, right? So I don't want to get into marketing. I have multiple trainings online on YouTube about marketing KPIs and all that stuff, but I want to try to keep this as focused as possible with sales. Okay. So the structure, you obviously want to do leader shares the metrics of yesterday. So you kind of keep people accountable, right? Does that make sense? Like if you're meeting every day for 15 minutes, you can talk about yesterday's numbers, right? And you'd be like, hey bro, you only made 100 dials, like you usually make 200. Like what happened? Right? You only made 2 offers this week, right? What happened, right? You can keep people accountable. Show rate, close rate, and call to close percentage, very important to track. So these are, I don't know why these aren't bullets, but these should be bullets as well, right? You want to make sure that any appointment that they make, you're tracking their show rate, right? You're also tracking their close rate. You want to track all these things because you want to make sure that something is trainable or fixable, right? If you don't have a script, if you don't have a script, how can you grade your guys or girls, right? If you don't have a process that's the same, how do you grade them? One of my lead managers calls about 300 something dials a day, so like 3 to 350 a day. And she calls 6 days a week. So what is that? 3,600 dials a week. Now they're full time though. The lead manager, or I mean the closer, it depends, right? So we take maybe like 3 to 5 appointments a day, right? In terms of from the cold caller, text messages, campaigns, and all that stuff. But usually, like the closer will just handle any hot appointments. Yeah, 300 to 350 lead managers. So my lead managers are the cold callers. Okay, like they're dialing 3 to 350 a day. With power dialer, obviously. Okay, so micro wins. Let's talk about wins. Call out the top performer on your team. Ask what they do different. What would you do differently yesterday? Okay. Make sure the boring work gets reinforced. The boring stuff wins. The rest of the meeting, bro, the 15 to 30 minutes, you're going to role play, guys. You're going to role play. Okay. Role play, you can use ChatGPT, bro. ChatGPT will give you way better scenarios than you just role playing, like coming out with an idea. Okay. Is the closer on a salary only taking 3 to 5 appointments a day? It depends on the day of the week. So in Houston, I mean, today we had like, 40, 50 foreclosures today. So like where our phones are blowing up right now in terms of like SMS appointments and all that stuff. But they're taking 3 to 5 closings a day, like appointments. That's a lot. Like you can close your 5 to 7 deals a month by that many appointments, right? Based off KPIs and tracking. Okay. So role play, super important, right? I picked ChatGPT to do all the scenarios, and you want to cover these different topics, right? The leader demos the first line, so you as the boss or you yourself, and then you round robin with each rep, running the script. You get interrupted and you correct it. Like you don't let them keep going. You want to train them and like stop them whenever they mess up because that's when they actually learn, right? They need reps. They need the role playing to be difficult, right? Non-negotiable. If you guys are virtual, your cameras are on, your scripts are on, and everyone talks. Like you cannot have a team meeting and everyone's having their camera off. Like I want to look at you, bro. Okay? If you're on my team, we're like talking. Like if we're not in person, we're having face-to-face talk and I can see your tonality and the way you're talking about the script. Okay? No more dark screens. Okay? So you do the daily role play, and then I usually do a 60-minute training a week. So this is like the big over encompassing where we do KPI review for the week and identify the biggest skill gap in your team. Okay. You're going to do a live call review on 1 or 2 calls. I usually just do one, and you deep dive one of the acquisition manager's calls, or you dissect a closing call that result in a deal, right? You want to dig through everything, score them accordingly, and I'll show you the scorecard. You want to go through this whole entire process with them. Okay. Number 3, I call it a skill clinic rotation, right? This is for 20 minutes. We kind of go through a different topic every single week, right? So it kind of keeps it fresh, kind of keeps it good. And then you're reinforcing certain things in the sales process, right? Your opening, your frame. Can you get the motivation? Let's get the condition and numbers, right? Are you price anchoring? Stuff like that. Like certain sales things during the process, we cover every week more in depth and we rotate that so the guys aren't freaking bored, right? And they're getting a new rep at something every week. Okay. Repeat the loop. Reps need repetition to the point of boredom. Okay. Wow, I kind of like contradicted myself. You don't want it to be the same training every week, but you do want them to be like, all right, bro, like I'm gonna be lethal at this, right? You want to make them super, super lethal. That's the bottom line. So this is the structure, right, of the weekly meeting. So this is like more of like one-on-one stuff. So your acquisition manager, you should meet them at least once a month, like once a month in terms of like one-on-one instruction and goal setting. That's super important as well. A lot of people don't actually talk to their reps about what they actually want, right? So this is how we kind of grade our guys. So I know I talk about grading people. So I want to make sure that you guys understand how we grade people. So obviously we have the weekly scorecard. This tracks like your KPIs. So I know Simon was asking about KPIs and how we should track this. Um, and I see your question about connection rate. So what do you mean by that? Do you mean by sales connection rate or marketing, right? There's two different connection rates. So when you look at like all this stuff, you want to rank your reps at certain numbers. So your show rate, close rate, lead to close percentage. And then this is like just kind of details that we don't need to cover. But I want to cover the grading rubric, right? So the grading rubric, you can't have a grading or a rubric without a process or a script, right? Does that make sense, guys? Because how can you grade someone if you don't have something that's consistently comparable, right? So for marketing, it's the connection rate that you want is the marketing one is how many dials you have, how many connections you have in terms of like marketing side. So like if your phone carrier is blocking people, are you disconnecting? Is it going to voicemail, right? Those are connections. So like our dialer usually ranges around 50 to 60% connection rate. And then we have a 10% sales connection rate, if that makes sense, right? We want to make sure that we're having 10% of the data that we have is actually quality conversations that can turn into a deal. Okay. So for the call grading rubric, this is the basic function of how you should grade your calls. So everything's out of 100, right? You're going to grade the setup 1 to 15. You can kind of read this yourself. Are they good at, are they direct? Are they setting a basic frame? The discovery is 30 points. Obviously, this is one of the most important thing, right? Is trying to figure out the surface level stuff, right? Am I missing the selling? Am I asking the magic wand question? Am I getting a clear why, right? Am I labeling the main problem? This is super important. How you offer. Are you doing the right things? Are you setting the frame? Are you doing all these things, right? If objections do come up, how are you dealing with that? Okay? Bam fam. If you need to talk to them later, are you setting an actual appointment, like a hard date? Right? Are you making sure your CRM is clean? So out of all these things, when you listen to the recording, you have to grade them off a standard. Okay. Once you grade them on a standard, this is how you can use the scorecard. So if your guy is getting below a 60 or bottom on both effort and close, you need to script practice or they need to like get kicked out or they need a different role. Okay. You can't guess who's good on the phone. You've got to get a scoreboard and a rubric that lines up money in the bank, right? If they're bad, you know they're bad, right? If they're in the middle, you can focus on coaching their worst part to get them better. And then also, if you're tracking this on a week to week basis and they don't improve their score, you're kind of the writing's in the wall, right? But you don't want people to just kind of guess where you're at, right? Where you feel like, you talk to your partner. Have you ever like talked to yourself or your partner and you're like, I feel like he or she's doing well, or like I feel like they have potential. You can't make decisions just like marketing decisions off feelings. You need to have cold hard data. Okay? That makes sense, guys? And Simon, I said 50 to 60% marketing connection rate, which is your cold call connection. And then our sales connection rate is we try to attain 10%. That's like our goal. And what I mean by sales is like, hey, out of all the phone calls and connections we've had, 10% of our data or leads are actually real people that actually want to talk to us. Okay. Does this all make sense, guys? All right. Would you mind going over pay structure real quick? So that really depends, right, guys? So that depends on your business. That depends on your goals. So if you are if you're running like 15K a month on PPC, like I'm gonna pay that acquisition manager a shit ton of money because I need the most talented person. So paying someone more, right? So let's say like, okay, think about okay, who here is in a real estate community like sub two results driven. Actually, I wouldn't say results driven, but like any sort of real estate community that's like tons of people, right? Who here has hired people from those groups? I know more people have done it. Okay. So for me personally, I love groups like that. Like I'm a part of all those communities, right? I'm a part of results driven, sub two. Obviously, I have my own community. Like I'm a part of so many communities. But when you hire people from those communities, they're not actually talented. Okay. Like some of them are talented in terms of sales, but like if you hire these people from free communities or paid communities and you pay them a commission, you're going to get the worst talent. Okay. Now you may find a diamond in the rough, but you're mostly dealing with people that need babysitting, or if they're on commission, they have full time jobs and can't commit to like what you need them to do. Right. They're going to cold call for an hour, 2 hours, and end up quitting. Okay. If I'm running a massive inbound marketing business, I want a dog on my team. And how do you get dogs? You offer more money. So if I said, yo, I'm running PPL 15K a month in ads and I'm burning their money and I'm getting like 10, 20 leads a fucking day, right? I don't know how much that would actually realistically cut. But if you're getting 10 to 15 leads a month or day, I mean, and you're paying a lot of money in direct mail, inbound, don't you want the best closer possible? So I would be like, yo, base salary is 5K a month or something, and you get a percentage of closing. So like 3 to 5% closing per, and then you will get a pool of like 30, 40, 50 people. And I'd even run an ad. I would run ads and try to get like a serious salesperson. And then you get to interview those 50 people. People who say like they don't want to interview 50 people, they want to interview 3 or 4 or 5 people. Like you're not serious, bro. Like interview like 20, 30 people at that level, right? And you can quickly screen out people. Like we teach that in the community as well of like how to hire people. But the thing is, you want talent to be interested. You're not going to have talented people look at a $1,000 salary with 5% commission or purely commission based job when the operator, they don't even know if the operator is going to generate them opportunities, right? That's probably what you guys are going through, right? The reason why most people fail at PPL or PPC or inbound is they don't have an actual sales rep to close. So how we do it is our top closer is a 3K salary plus 5% commission when they close deals on their own. And if you're closing 5 deals a month, they're making 70, 80 grand a year. That's a full-time job, brother. I pay more than freaking McDonald's and Walmart. So that's the big difference. So it really depends on what your strategy is, what your goals are, and what type of talent you need on your team. Tristan, I'm so sorry. Did that make sense? did that make sense? I'll answer Ivan's question too. What does your recruiting process look like? We run through. We can run ads or we can do Indeed, depending on the talent you need. So if you need like sales reps, like Indeed and stuff like that's cool. Indeed and LinkedIn are like entry level stuff, right? But you can also run traffic to your job postings as well. Are you using VAs? Not for acquisitions. Okay. I do not use VAs for acquisitions. And I don't listen, guys. I know people that do really, really well with VAs. They do really, really well with call centers. I personally cannot stamp my approval on call centers. Okay. You're going to spend $2,000, $3,000 a month for a cold call agency. And then they're printing you really shitty leads, right? Like who here's used call centers? I know people that use call centers. You might as well have it in house. If you're going to pay $2,000, okay, here's the thing. The people out there that are using call centers, yeah, love you, bro, appreciate it. If you guys have call centers and you're spending $2,000 a month, why don't you just use your own sales rep where you control the process, you control the training, you control how good they are, and you get to pick who your person is. So if you guys have the money to afford hiring a call center, just be a boss and hire somebody. Okay? It's way more control. And then also you have control of your leads. Now, the VA question, I do have VAs, but not for acquisitions. The reason why is because the language barrier, maybe they don't understand empathetic stuff. They don't understand sarcasm. And if you're dealing with my business model of like county records, niche data, they don't really understand foreclosures. They don't really understand that stuff. Right. And then you're saving money up front. You're saving money up front, but you're not saving in terms of how many deals you're probably losing using a Filipino or Egyptian VA, right? Does that make sense, Jen? That's my philosophy on it. I'd rather just put an American on it because I think that I can train an American seller way better and they're going to close more deals versus the VA. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we go into the final stretch, the final countdown? Yeah. Yeah. I've done it too, right? I had 2 VAs in 2024. Yeah. We have SOPs on how to hire your own sales team. Is there somewhere we can find the rubric and sales team calendar in school to keep a copy to apply to our teams? So yes, I have it tagged, Tristan, in our school, like an inner circle. So All the resources are in there. Okay. One last question before I keep going? Oh man, I've been standing this whole time. No 4%, 5%, 6%. What about quarterly bonuses? Yeah, we do quarterly bonuses as well. So the slide scale, it just depends on like what you're doing, right? Like, guys, I'm not your boss, Simon. So like whatever your philosophy is and how much money you're making can dictate who you want to, how you want to pay, right? So I know there's some companies that do slides. So like a slide is basically like, hey, if you're a lead manager and you like bring a deal up like to a closer, that closer gets paid 3 to 4%. If they did it themselves, like they take an inbound lead, they close it themselves, no lead managers involved, we're happy to pay 6%. But here's the thing, in the acquisition pipeline, you don't want to pay more than 10% commission, right? So because you're already paying a salary, and if you're paying an additional 10% or higher in commissions throughout your sales team process, you're cutting your profits tremendously, right? And if you're confident in the amount of deals you're doing, they're getting paid more than enough, right? It just depends. And then you obviously have a team or quarterly goal to chase. And that doesn't have to be a percentage, right? That could be like a flat fee. Like, hey, if we meet our goals for this quarter, everyone gets paid $2,500 or $3,000, right? If you hit all your goals in all 4 quarters of the year, they're getting paid an additional you know, 3, 6, 9. They're getting paid an extra like 12 to 15 grand a year. That's a lot. Okay. And remember, you're hiring people that are, working like from normal jobs. You're not hiring people with full time jobs like in these communities. You're hiring real people. Okay. No VA for cold calling either. So you're saying not just lead managers or closers. No, they're lead managers for us, and how we classify them is they do follow ups and do cold calls, right? And if you're doing county records and you're not calling 30, 40, 50,000 records from, companies like, actually, I don't want to name the companies, but let's say you're like pulling big bulk data lists from different softwares or companies, like, yeah, you're going to need a fat team of callers, right? And maybe VAs are the way to do it. But like, if you're calling 3,000 records a month, like most of you guys are, you can easily handle that with 2 people. Does that make sense? Like, I know some of you guys are actually in here today that cold call. So you guys can get through all your data every month. Am I wrong? If you stay consistent. So I have one for courthouse only that is not a VA, but then yeah, because you're using bulk data. That's why. Right? So if you have bulk data, you have to use it. You can't get to the data. And you also, it's just not really affordable anymore. Okay. Is your call centers producing you really good results though? So Vandy says, while calling, most people are not screening calls and don't pick up. How to handle screening while cold calling? So I don't know what that means. Like if people are like screening your call, like blocking your call. Of course, Manny. Awesome, bro. Appreciate you. Okay. I don't know. So I hope that answered your question. Do you mean Google Voice? Yeah, there's a whole ton of things. So, okay, let me close this out for you guys because we've been over almost 2 hours. I want to make sure that I get the last bit of training for you guys. And then let's kind of talk about one last thing, okay? I want to recap everything. So you want to make sure that you want to get to the point. You want to kind of explain what you're dealing with. And then you want to clarify what their problem is, okay? Once you clarify their problem, and what I mean by clarify is you figure out where they are in their process and then where they want to go at the end. Okay. After that, you can classify and label everything into one batch, right? It's called labeling your pain. Then you want to figure out logistics. The logistics side of it is price. If there's any objections, if there's any issues in time and all that stuff, right? You want to figure out all the objections. I would say that is your logistical drag. Okay. And then you want to sell the solution before you offer. And then you can't do any of this. I want to say this one last time, guys, for everyone listening. You can't do any of this unless you figure out what the problem is. Okay. Last thing, most objections, like I said, will fall under these 5 to 6 objection buckets, right? Blame AI. I told you guys I use AI for these stupid slides. That's why I didn't want to use them today, but I wanted to make sure I had some visuals for you. But no matter what they say, they always fall into the same buckets of objections. And we covered today that you would get everything answered with one or two ways, in very specific tactical ways, to answer those objection buckets. Okay? So, number one, I appreciate you guys showing up live, and I'm giving you guys everything that all the documents that I shared with you today, and we'll put them in the school channel. Okay? But most importantly, guys, like I appreciate you guys coming. But most importantly, so I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Phil and I are actually trying to win the school games this quarter. So we're big Hermosi fans. We're in the Hermosi mastermind right now. And basically, we want to kind of give you guys a really cool offer. It's not like a $10,000, $20,000 coaching program. We're actually just selling our CRM. And basically, the CRM will give you all this type of coaching. So, like, you get all these workshops that we're doing every single month. We're giving you the software as well, right? And then obviously we have our inner circle guys. So, like, those guys get a lot more access to us in terms of like calling leads and walking them through different things. But we're actually trying to meet Hermosi this quarter. We spent a lot of money going over Hermosi's program, right? So we learned a ton of stuff, and we want to kind of share that with you guys. And basically, if you guys need a freaking CRM, I can kind of show you what it looks like. We literally have something that's $49 a month, and you get all these different trainings with us, right? So Tristan's with us, Mandy's with us, Vandy's with us. I think Carrie's with us right now, and we do all these trainings every single month. You can do the annual, and then you get a one-on-one coaching call with me. So it's like not like a sales thing, but I'll literally walk you through for 30 minutes of like what you're doing, and then also you get a CRM. So the CRM is really cool. If you guys have been using it, we've been fixing a lot. We've been doing a lot of cool things with the CRM. And I know a lot of you guys don't have a CRM or using one that doesn't work. We want to be able to give you a CRM and also give you coaching with it so you are better prepared to close deals, right? So you guys won't get like the live calls that we do with our inner circle guys because I literally help them close deals, but we'll give you all the support that we can. We'll have our CRM director in the freaking school, like, so like 3 times a week. If you have issues with their CRM, like, you guys will have access to them to fix your CRM and customer support. But just wanted to kind of give you this cool offer. The school games ends in March, so I want to give you guys a CRM with all the freaking cool stuff and coaching at the same time. And then, yeah, links right there. So Phil, if you can drop the link, and then we can kind of cut to some Q&A. Hermosi, Tony Robbins interview was fire. I'll tell you guys, I listened to that crap yesterday. So on Tuesday or Wednesday, I actually went to West Point to talk to the cadets, right, about real estate. And it was really cool. And actually, on the way home, I was listening to that Hermosi, Tony Robbins podcast. I don't know if you guys watched it or not. Dude, it's insane. It was awesome, right? And what Hermosi thought, so Hermosi changed his mastermind yesterday. So he announced everything on live for us, saying he was going to make acquisition advisor super affordable, so like more investors can do it. And it's pretty sweet, right? So a lot of cool things. So like Japeth or Jay, what up, Jay? Yeah, he's in it as well. But like basically, like that podcast was super crazy because Hermosi wants to train like 1,000,000 people hit 100K this year. So like that is $1 billion of revenue. So we want to do that in honor of Hermosi and Tony Robbins in the school games. We want to crush this year with you guys. So it's pretty awesome. So does anybody have any questions about sales or anything wholesale related? We have 30 minutes for Q&A. Taylor Wilson from Louisville. What's up, brother? All right, I'll give it 60 seconds for questions, and then enjoy your Saturday. I'm about to go to the gym. About to get buff. Dude, my voice is cooked. I'm curious how you got started in real estate and how long you've been in the game. I started in 2022, so I did it kind of reverse. So a lot of people will say that wholesaling is like the entry drug to like real estate. I strongly disagree. When I first started, I actually bought rentals. So I was a direct to seller investor. So I would get off work, high five my wife, and be like, yo, what's up? Like cold call for 2, 3 hours, right? So I actually bought a lot of house on creative finance. So from 2023 to 2024, I bought like 19 houses on like seller finance subject to. And all those houses were actually sold on lease options. Okay. So like we did a bunch of lease options. If you guys don't know what that is, basically buy it on seller finance subject to, and then I would sell it on a lease option. So they would rent the property and then end up buying it later. What I noticed was I bought all those properties, and with all the cash flow and stuff, I was not able to quit my job. So if you guys know, like I'm in the army and I'll be out in the army in a couple months. So how I started really making income was wholesaling. So I started wholesaling in 2023. We did only foreclosures and we were ripping, dude. We were ripping tons of deals. And then in 2024, I saw a ton of ads on how to scale your business. So I went to a different program that cost like 30 grand. And then I learned how to do inbound, direct mail, all that stuff. And then I actually overscaled my team. So I spent about 78,000 in marketing in 2024. And I was flipping multiple houses a year trying to like break a profit, because if you spend a lot of money, and this is a really important KPI metric, right? If you are spending $10,000 for this is really bad numbers, by the way. If you spend $10,000 to get a contract, so your cost per contract is 10 grand, and then your average assignment fee is 8 grand. So in Louisville, Kentucky, so I got some Kentucky folks in here. The average assignment fee in Kentucky could range from 8 to 12K. That was like the average, because if you're in Kentucky, there's a whole neighborhood called the West End, and the numbers are just horrible out there. And in order to like break a profit, you can't wholesale if you're burning that much money on ads and stuff. So we had to flip 3, 4 houses a month. So we almost lost our ass there, right? In 2020, late 2024, 2025, we went towards niche county records. So we went back to like what we started at, except we did it at scale. So we bought like all the data we could in terms of foreclosure, probate, divorce. And then what we did from there was use low cost marketing. So cold calling, texting, emails, right? You hear my, trainings all the time, or on Instagram. I talk about emails, texting, all that stuff, because it is the lowest cost of entry to get into this. And I give a lot of credit to my friend Sam. So like Sam taught me a lot, throughout my years in wholesaling. And that was truly when we took off, because we probably spend about 3 grand a month, maybe less, compared to like what I was spending with inbound. So I was spending about 10-ish a month. Now I spend about like 25 to $3,000 a month. So it just depends on like, how I started. So I've been in the game since 2022, long story short. I do wholesaling now, and also me and Phil are looking for commercial properties. So the business can really scale for you, but ultimately you need to make today money depending on where your life is. So everyone will have a different journey in real estate. And I like to tell you guys that, because my journey will not be the same as your journey, right? I had a 9 to 5 job. I wanted to quit my 9 to 5 job, but I had the luxury of getting paid a 9 to 5 job while I, did all this stuff, right? So if you need today money to like quit your job or whatever, like rentals probably isn't the game. It's probably going to be active stuff like wholesaling or flipping, right? If you have a 9 to 5 job and you love your 9 to 5 job, you don't necessarily need to wholesale necessarily, right? You can buy rentals. What else do we got? Um, Ivan, hope that was helpful, dog. Hope that was helpful. I hope that made sense. Do you have trainings already made for the way you did sub two lease op and creative finance and how to set it up? No, we don't, but we can, right? Me and Phil both do a lot of creative finance deals in our past. We still do creative finance. I mean, we try to buy a $2 million apartment building on seller finance. So, and also a part of negotiating with the seller, like having the ability to understand creative helps you out, right? In terms of, you know, if cash doesn't work, how do you make a deal work? That's where the tools come into play. I don't like to preach creative finance just because it's really risky for people, right? So I make sure that creative finance is usually the last option for me when you're wholesaling, because you don't want to sell a deal to some, Goomba that doesn't pay the mortgage. Okay. Vandy asks, Cold calling people, most have call screening feature installed on their phone. This feature asks about name and reason. How do you bypass this screening feature and hoping that owners pick up and talk? You can't bypass it. So Tristan is right. You can't, like, I would just say like, hey, my name's Tim. Like, I'm a local investor looking to just connect with you. And people still pick up. Like, we have students that cold call and get that Google Voice thing, and they just tell them who they are, and sometimes they pick up. Unfortunately, like, restrictions are getting worse. Okay. Jay, I got you, bro. Appreciate it. You have so say something fake to make them curious, right? Yeah, I agree with that too. I say emergency and it lets me read through it. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to lie, right? It's just, hey man, like got something urgent, want to talk to you about, right? It's the same thing as like when you intro a cold call and it's like, "Hey, what's up? What's up, Ivan? It's Tim." Like you sound familiar, right? And here's the thing, you just want to make sure that you get them on the phone, but maybe don't use the emergency thing if you don't feel comfortable with it because you will have sellers, I promise you, really mad. Okay? Ivan is an animal, bro. Because he's a young guy. I know he's a young guy, he's a hustler, bro. Sure if it's legal though. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that if you don't feel comfortable with it, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like texting, right? So we do a lot of texts, and a lot of people are afraid of text messages, but you do as what you think is, risky, right? Sometimes I ask, I just like hear like, yeah, just don't do it. Just don't do it, bro. Okay, any other questions, guys? I got shit for marketing too. John Langlois, bro. I haven't seen you in a minute. What's up, brother? I'm looking at who's here. Alex Greenawalt, love you, bro. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Kenneth, what's up, bro? Be talking to you tomorrow, Kenneth. Hey, you got your emails going, bro? What? What kind of cash conversion cycle do you see on cold calling? Good KPIs, blah blah blah. Okay, so cold calling, what, 4 to 6 month cash conversion on average, right? You can get it as quick as 90 days. Like the only reason why I say 90 days, like ideally, is because obviously it takes about 30 days to get your system set up, 30 days of marketing, cold calling them, trying to reach out to sellers. If you do get someone under contract in your 60th day in that band, on average, it takes about 30 days to actually close that deal, right? And that's when you would get that money. But for safe planning purposes, if you are raw out of the box, 4 to 6 months is usually the cash conversion cycle. I have not cold called like I used to, but like I promise you, bro, if I was putting 8 hours a day into cold calling, I'd probably get something in the first 30 days. And also, like in May, so you guys will see this. Like I'll film this in May when I get out of the army. I'm gonna just door knock every foreclosure in my town, right? And it's gonna be crazy. I think I'm gonna door knock every single foreclosure in Aberdeen, Maryland. So and see if I can get a deal in Aberdeen. Good KPIs. So good KPIs. Yo, see you, bro. Appreciate you. For KPIs, it really depends on your business, right? It depends on like, okay, so if you have marketing KPIs and you have sales KPIs. So marketing KPIs is like kind of like your connection rate, right? So if you're looking at a dialer, I know you're using Mojo Dialer, so we've talked before. So if you're using Mojo Dialer, you should have a screen that kind of tracks how many dials you made and how many connections you made. And the better dialers will actually predict, you know, when's the best time to call. So like ready mode's a really good one, but also as you're calling these leads, Wave Dialer tracks if a phone carrier blocks you. um, it also tracks disconnections. So like all that math will turn into like your connection rate for marketing. So if your marketing connection rate is under 50% or even under 60%, that means your dialer either sucks or your phone numbers are getting flagged by phone carriers or you have bad data, right? So if you have bad data, you're not getting deals. If you're not connecting to the seller, you're not getting deals, right? Does that make sense? That's how you kind of track your marketing stuff. Now, if you're talking cold call sales, sales is completely different because it merges all your different marketing channels into appointments. And then you have to track, okay, so I talked to 100 sellers on the phone, 20 of them were quality. When I say quality is somebody who raises their hand and says that they're interested in selling their property. Okay. So out of those 20 calls, I went into a discovery process. Out of that discovery process, how many offers did I make? And then how many offers turned into contracts? So those numbers are super important because you can actually see, like, you know, if your sales process sucks or if your leads suck or if maybe you're not prospecting enough, right? So if I see someone on my team, I'll give you an example. I know this is not a KPI class, but a real brief overview of sales because it's still kind of part of it is if my acquisition manager had 20 discovery calls, right? Where they actually talked to the seller, went through the whole process, all that stuff, but they only made one offer. What does that tell you? 20 process calls, 20 discovery calls, and only one offer. What does that tell you? The question is if they're doing one offer call, that means they're leaving money on the table. Okay. If they're leaving money on the table, because you can listen to those calls. So all your calls should be recorded. If there's 20 discovery calls and you're only doing one, you're not taking enough shots. That's number one. So Ivan's spot on. You're not taking enough shots. And also, you as a sales manager have to listen to those calls and be like, hey, this person said this, and you didn't actually dive deeper in it. Like, this is actually an offer call. So if you take over as a manager and call that person and actually get a deal done, you've actually saved 8 to 15 grand of revenue because you went back and watched the KPIs and listened to their calls. If they're offering too much, like they've had 20 calls and made 20 offers, but you only had 2 accepted, so you're batting 1 out of 10, that means you're wasting time on making offers, but then you're also not getting to the right motivator when you speak to those people. You see what I'm saying? Like, so the numbers you track tell the story of how your business actually is. Instead of you saying, I think my data sucks, or I think I'm good at sales, but I'm not converting. What does your numbers actually tell you? And then based off your numbers, you can see where the gap in your businesses are. Cool? Cool. I'll do one more question and then you guys can enjoy your weekend. And first off, love you guys. I appreciate you guys spending 2 hours and 15 minutes with me today on a Saturday. So I appreciate it, guys. So one last question, and then we'll hop off. Door knock. How to be comfortable with it? You never get comfortable with it. You just have to do it. Unfortunately, I probably wouldn't do it. Like if you had other ways to market, but door knocking is a really effective way to generate leads. Obviously, because you can get shot, right? That's I think that's the scariest part. It's like you can probably get shot, but like, but number two is like most people, if you're really nice and you're really friendly, they're not gonna yell at you. And also number two is like they know you're real versus somebody that's like cold calling them, like, yo, what's up, bro? Like, they're gonna be like, F you. Like, if you show up to the door, you know you're real. Because a lot of people feel like there's a lot of scams going on, but you can't really scam somebody that's standing outside your house and it's 30 degrees outside, right? So I wanted to go door knock when it was cold outside to make them feel bad for me. It's like, oh, hey, I'm out here. It's really cold. Like, I just wanted to like talk to you, see if I can help you with your house, right? Like, that's a little different than like cold calling them and texting them. But yeah, it's like anything else. You get used to talking, on the phone. You get used to talking on camera. You get used to door knocking. It just takes a lot of reps. Okay. All right. Time to wrap it up. So I appreciate you guys hanging out for 2.5 hours today with me on this Saturday. I really appreciate it. Just a reminder, this recording and all the other workshop trainings that we'll be doing throughout the next couple of months are all going to be in the workshop portion of the classroom. You'll have access to that in the middle tier of the school, which is about 49 bucks a month, where you can pay for the annual for a couple of SOP bonuses and all that. If you're looking for a CRM that has all the AI, automations, all that stuff, that is on the third tier. You get that for the whole entire year, plus a ton of other bonuses and courses. And you can find all the information on www.school.com/newbreed/plans. The link will be down below as well. But we want to triple down on the value in the next couple of months in order to reach as many people, train as many people, and also earn our spot at the school games. So I appreciate you guys. Love you guys for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys at the next one.